A Woodcutter and a Fairy, the second story. One day, the woodcutter and his son went to the old well in the wood. The woodcutter hoped to meet his fairy wife there again. They waited for many days, but no fairy came. When the disappointed father and son were about to leave the well, one old fairy came down from heaven to get some water from the well. The old fairy listened to the woodcutter and his son's story and felt sorry for him. "I know this boy's mother, Chook. She can't come back to the human world because the Emperor of Heaven won't allow her to. But Chook has never stopped thinking of her husband and son. Tomorrow, I'll help you to visit heaven." The next day, early in the morning, two fairies came down from heaven and told the woodcutter and his son to sit, with their eyes closed, inside a bag they brought from heaven. And then in the twinkling of an eye, the father and son reached heaven. The husband met his wife and the mother met her son. They were so happy to be together again that they couldn't stop crying and talking to one another. But soon they had to say goodbye to each other again, because there was a very strict rule about the opening and closing the gate of heaven. Once the door was closed, no one could set foot inside heaven. If the Emperor of Heaven found out that Chook had brought humans to heaven, she would be punished severely for offending the law of heaven. With tears streaming down her cheeks, Chook gave her husband a drum and a bowl of rice. "Once you reach the ground, you must beat the drum 3 times so that I can hear and cut the rope, or else the Emperor will find out and I'll get a harsh punishment." On their way down, the son started to cry, saying that he was hungry. The woodcutter quickly put the bowl of rice on the drum for his son. While eating, the son dropped some grains of rice here and there on the drum. Then, some ravens came and pecked up the rice grains on the drum, making 3 drum beats. The fairy heard the drum beats and cut the rope, thinking that her husband and son had already reached the ground. The woodcutter and his son fell to the sea in an instant. The ravens saw what happened and flew up to the sky, croaking and beating their wings. The watchmen of heaven heard the ravens croaking and came out to see what was going on outside. The ravens told the watchmen everything that had happened to the father and son. The watchmen quickly reported it to the emperor. The emperor felt sorry for the woodcutter and his son. The emperor asked the water god to save the woodcutter and his son's lives. And then the emperor allowed them to live in heaven. From then on, the woodcutter worked as a herdsman, taking care of the water buffaloes in heaven. However, Oorang was allowed to live with the water buffaloes only on the other side of the River. Chook, who was a weaver, lived on this side of the river. The emperor allowed the couple to meet each other only once a year, on the 7th day of the 7th month. Every year, on the day of their meeting, it rains. People believe that the rain is Oorang and the Chook's tears. The couple are allowed to stay together only for 1 day, and then they must live separately for the rest of the year. So, people call the rain on that day Oorang's rain. The emperor punished the ravens by making them serve as a bridge over the river for the couple on the day of their meeting. That's why the ravens' heads go bald in July each year. We can still see the traces of it.